Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. It's Wednesday. Let's take a look at some altcoins. BTC's breaking out. It's October. September has ended. October has begun. We have a government shutdown. We have gold roofing. We have a great pattern on BTC. Seasonality on our side. Now's the time for BTC to do anything if it's going to. Looking at the shutdown data previously, at least in the United States, the first thing I noticed is actually the duration. Most of these shutdowns historically have only been basically a week. But if it goes past a week, it can get pretty interesting. And I assume this is business days. I don't think this is, maybe it's, normal days. But the last shutdown we had was 2018 into 2019, and that lasted a month. In any case, a year after the shutdown, S&P was higher. And the return during the shutdown, for the most part here, has been higher. So stocks haven't really cared. And anytime you have governments making mistakes, central banks making mistakes, that's good for BTC. So love it or hate it. BTC certainly likes it. Briefly ticked to 118 today. I think it's at 117.5 right now. Today is the day. If there was ever a day to shoot your shot, not because I shot my shot, but because people are asking me, what do I do? Do I nibble? Do I go big? Do I buy options? Do I use leverage? That you have to answer for yourself. I can tell you what I did today was did open some options, did open some leverage, but that's for me. It doesn't matter what you do to me or what I do for you, because I can't trade your money. You have to do that for yourself. So the point is, on the technicals, this is an inverted head and shoulders breakout. This is a cloud breakout. We don't have a bullish TK cross yet. We do have a measured move. 130, 140. So I have a plan. If that plan is, I'm going to open a little here and a little later, fine. Stop loss for this is 111. Simple. Anything below the cloud. Until then, game on. I'll get to measuring this in a few different ways because that's going to be inevitably the next question. Why not use this wick or that wick? I'll get to that in a second. Basic bare bones, first target would be this. If we look at gold, gold had a similar setup, longer duration, cleaner breakout, etc. Initially, I had measured it conservatively from this area to this area. Just, I'm not trying to be perfect on targets before breakout. I'm not trying to sell on exactly the penny. You're always trying to find zones of places where things might happen, right? And yes, this is the alt video, but this is important for all the alts because you have a ton of alt setups, very wicky, all over the place. So the lesson here is measure both. Go conservative, go big. See what we can get. So the conservative target on gold got blown past. And if we go from wick to wick, maximum, this low to this high, we're currently in that zone now. I mean, we may just blow past that too. This happens. You can blow past measured moves. If you look at silver from wick to wick, this is a multi-year pattern breakout, is also in its range currently based on the measured move. So if we redo it for BTC, you'll go to this one, 136, 144. You don't get that much of a difference here, but just because I know people are going to ask, why this versus that, I just try to eyeball it and say, okay, diagonally it's about here. This is about the top. This is about the bottom. You can turn on line and remove the wicks entirely. It's up to you. This is more of an art than a science. You're just trying to see what the risk reward is, right? Like that's all this is really about. And if we get there, we get there. If we don't, we don't. But if the risk reward is appropriate for you, then you have to make the decision, okay, do I want to use leverage? Do I want to use spot? Do I want to trade alts instead? Right? I think that's where people are already starting to make probably a mistake, in my opinion. I've been wrong before, I'll be wrong again. But to see this breakout on BTC and then start taking trades way down the list, I think it's a little early for that. A little early. I don't think that's going to be necessarily wrong in the end, but I personally am not comfortable with that. I would rather just trade what's in front of me here on BTC. Take the win, take the breakout. And then if we get trades beyond that, great. It's like, look, a lot of people caught this gold trade. A lot of people are rotating gold into BTC. I don't hate that. We still have this old target on BTC. Again, the risk reward is there for 140 plus, right? 122 is still important because that's the yearly pivot. That printed January 1st, 2025. And it's important today. It was important the past 4 times we tried to break. We'll see if we break this time. If we do, that's a very good sign. That's a very good sign. We'll test 150. Someone asked about IBIT versus NVIDIA, and this is just a general reminder that, I do this all the time. I'm just looking at random pairs to see, is this trade better than that trade? Is there anything I can see here on technicals that would make sense, one versus the other? Some people, again, they're more comfortable just trading NVIDIA on the breakout. That's fine. It's up to you. Pick your poison. This doesn't look like a resounding setup for IBIT against NVIDIA, right? It's trying to bottom. I don't know if it will, but it's trying to bottom. Some people would love this setup here. I think it's a little early if I'm just trading on this chart, which I'm not, but someone asked me about it. We also have the Coinbase Premium to watch. This is specifically for BTC. If you really wanted to, you could line up like the top 10 coins, Bitfinex versus Coinbase, and see, is there a premium or a discount? Typically, if there's a premium on Coinbase, that means you have ETF buyers, you have American buyers. And typically that means prices are moving higher. You can do Binance against Coinbase, you can do whoever against whoever, whatever, but may be useful as we get more ETFs down the line potentially. For ETH, I still think this is a descending broadening wedge. The uranium version of this was more of a megaphone, but it has hit its targets, its zone. And again, this is a personal choice. Do you like ETH here? I don't love it here. I'd rather just trade the breakout on BTC. ETH BTC kind of just looks okay. It's not bearish. This is not bearish. It's tested the cloud. It's tested the support. Some people prefer this. That's fine. I prefer BTC on leverage. That's just me. But this looks fine. Is this going to outperform in October relative to BTC? I don't know. Is it going to outperform in Q4? Also don't know. Really dependent on ETF flows. Another thing to think about in the ETH realm is if we stack up again, total 2, total 3, IWM, ETH, WGMI, and Coin, maybe the real trade isn't ETH versus BTC versus Sol. Maybe the real trade is miners, AI, data center stuff against something like Coin. So you're effectively trading AI against ETH instead of BTC against ETH. Coin, it's probably harder to see on this chart, but it does have a inverted head and shoulders here that it's trying to break out of. I still do not like the chart on the daily, but it does present an interesting pattern here. And again, personal choice. If you're up 10x on IREN, do you want to rotate into Coin? Some people would say hell no. Some people would say sure. Some people have been sitting in Coin and have been missing out on everything, right? Try not to be that person, but this is how I would think about it. Where can you get an outsized return? Not necessarily directly against a coin, but maybe a group of assets against another group of assets, because collectively, all of these have moved the same except for WGMI and Coin. These are the outliers, right? WGMI outperformed, Coin underperformed. So maybe this is the age of the orc, the age of the coin. Very well could be. Another thing to look at is these exchanges against each other, Coin versus Schwab, Hood versus Schwab. No one's looking at stuff like Invesco and BlackRock, but those have done very well. And this is another question to ask. Coin versus Hood here. Coin has gotten absolutely slaughtered against Hood since 2024. Is this channel bottoming? Is this a bullish divergence? Will this pull up against the cloud? Is it too early to rotate from Hood to Coin if you're holding Hood? I don't know, right? This is all personal preferences. Previously, we have had very decent setups that have played out as expected. This was an inverted head and shoulders back here favoring Coin. This favors Hood, to be clear. Currently just on trend, but maybe something to watch along the lines of Sol BTC, Sol ETH, ETH whatever, MSTR, Coin, ETH MSTR, etc. Some people just don't care, aka me. I just don't care about anything else outside of BTC. If BTC looks like it's about to run, I'm totally fine with that. Just like gold. I was totally fine with this. On the breakout, I don't care about silver miners and platinum miners. I just don't care. I'd rather just take this with size, sleep at night, and be done with it. Something else a lot of people are looking at are BMNR, SBET, MSTR, obviously. SBET on the 2 hour, also trying to bottom. I actually don't think BMNR looks as good on lower time frames. This does have a potential inverted head and shoulders here. Has not been above the 2 hour really ever. So I always try to find a time frame where it's obvious, right? It's obvious if this starts to break that, maybe that's a signal worth taking. Again, personal preference outside of the basic stuff. Here's Coin against MSTR. Does anybody on the planet think Coin is going to outperform MSTR? I don't, and I'm looking at the chart and it's showing me Coin is looking pretty good against MSTR, right? It hasn't done anything really since IPO against MSTR. I don't know why it would now, but again, something to watch outside of just against USD, right? I'm not saying short MSTR long coin, but if you've got, let's say 20 possible names in a portfolio, one way to test them against each other is to just look directly. Okay, is there anything here I can see, right? Maybe this does favor coin, aka ETH, or alts or alt season against MSTR. For Sol, I don't think it's as clean on anything here. It almost hit the initial target of the ascending triangle. It's still bullish. It still looks plenty fine. It's just been super, super noisy. If I was finding levels beyond all-time high, it would be the high to the low, measured higher, 460, 650. That would be the move. And this is again where people get into trouble because they start going down the list and they say, okay, this one could go 80%. This one could go 200%. Oh my gosh, I found this one. It could go 3,000%, right? So how you want to play that's up to you. Is this worth owning Little Sol just in case? Probably. It's done really well. It's done well against BTC. It's done well against ETH over the past couple months. Do I have high confidence in a $500 target here? No, but the TA doesn't hate it. Maybe this morphs into some sort of inverted head and shoulders, shoulder, head, shoulder, cup and handle, whatever. Totally possible. Someone's going to tell me, well, what about the multi-year cup and handle? Sure, right? Trade whatever you want, see whatever you want, but you have to figure out how are you going to take action on that. Are you going to go 10x Sol? I think it's a little early for that, but hey, that might be right. Here's Sol ETH in the cloud. I think this is a decent case for an inverted head and shoulder. This would favor Sol over ETH. Another thing to consider, if Sol gets ETFs, if Sol has flows in those ETFs, how will that play out? Will that steal flows from ETH? Will be interesting to watch. If it does, I'd imagine this pair does very, very well. But it's something to continue to think about as we get more products that are facing in the TradFi markets. Here's dominance. Still looks as bearish as it has. I'm not as bullish on dominance as Cowan is as far as a bounce here. Maybe you get an inverted head and shoulders, maybe you don't. I'm also not trading alts in a big way yet. I'm trading BTC. So, I just don't care what dominance does. It's not fully bearish yet, but it certainly doesn't look like it's headed back to 70. It looks like it's going to probably consolidate for a little bit and then break down. That's going to be the end of the cycle, probably into 2026 a little bit. But for now, it isn't a screaming by BTC over alts here on dominance. The issue is on the BTC pairs. Personally, I just don't see a lot of like, hey, buy this instead of BTC. Here's total 2. Is this a cup and handle? Let's call it a cup and handle. Sure. Right. There's your levels. And the other biggest issue with alts here is they could underperform for October, perform for November, and then make up for it in December, January. So again, it's a personal preference. Do you want to sit and wait in junk, hoping people rotate into it? Or do you want to trade what's actually moving today, rotate throughout October, November, and then be ready December, assuming it plays out as expected. Stablecoins also continue to print. That's very, very good for alts. Here's total 2 against BTC. Maybe this is an inverted head and shoulders. Either way, it's the opposite of dominance, right? It's starting to break up from the cloud for the first time in years, since 2021. We're not going to count this here, but since 2021, roughly, it's been a down-only show against BTC. This could fail and that could continue, but if this is going to do anything at any time, this would be it, right? This is the cloud telling you, okay, this is a time where alts could outperform against BTC. Now, we haven't looked at the watch chart in a while. It's been a few weeks, but it has looked like it has bottomed. Here's the 5-year. It's curling down. And kind of as you might suspect, I think the same type of people are trading watches that are trading NFTs that are trading, TCG collectible, whatever, like Pokemon. I assume it's all the same type of buckets of money. So one would think that these would be semi-correlated. So it's good to see this bottom along with everything else. It's done very well since April. Kind of looks like ETH on the low there in the pull-up. So things that you'd expect to be bottoming are definitely bottoming. Onto some individual names for alts. Ripple, maybe a cup and handle, maybe a falling wedge. Hard to say. It's been very noisy. Maybe this is an inverted head and shoulders here. Ultimately, for anything until the end of time, all I care about Are you above the cloud? Do you have a bullish TK cross? Is your cloud green? That's it. If you're bullish, that shouldn't be hard. Not quite there for XRP, but this is personal preference. What do you like? When do you like it? What type of orders do you like here, if any? Do you like to nibble a little bit first? Plenty of people are nibbling on BTC before today and yesterday. It's totally up to you. But my personal preference, a little bit higher on Ripple. If we go just to the live charts here, just scroll down the list a little bit. Say, does it pass the sniff test? No, not above the cloud, bearish TK cross. Okay, next chart, right? That's to me, that's how it should be, because right now, if you're not working in a bullish way, I just don't care. Does this morph into a cup and handle? It could. Set alerts at 33 cents or whatever and move on. That's all I would do there, personally. H-bar, maybe a little bit of a falling wedge, maybe a cup and handle, but again, nothing here. And that's going to be the theme broadly. I still think it's a little early. Now, these will bounce ruthlessly as they have today. They could bounce another 20% and I'd still be not satisfied with an entry. But that's just me. Again, that's my personal preference. Curve, this could be a mega channel falling wedge. We mapped out this trade last video. Still viable, still possible. I don't think we made a lower low there. Just barely didn't make a lower low. So still live on that idea, personal preference on whether or not it's worth taking. The only reason I'd be hesitant is because it's stuck in this massive range and has been for the entirety of the year. LTC also stuck in a range for the moment, really not doing much of anything. The moment it starts to make higher highs, you can see my little dot there. I have that alert set. The moment it starts to make higher highs, I like it a lot more. Link, similar to ETH, really nothing for me here. No higher highs, not above the cloud. Next chart. Algo, not above the cloud, not for me. ENA needs a full reset here. TK cross, price above cloud. If you're good at this game, you'll catch these well before everybody else. You'll be out of these well before everybody else. When everyone's belly aching about XYZ unlock or pullback or news item, you just don't care. I'm describing myself with this chart in this trade. I just don't care, right? I'm out of this. I've been out of this for, I don't know, a couple months, right? There's just nothing to do here. The other problem people have is they're forcing trades where there's just no trades to take, right? So I don't see anything on that one. ETC, nothing there. BNB, I really don't trade BNB, but if you were going to, you always want higher highs. You always want price above the cloud. You always want a bullish TK cross. The last TK cross was here. That was a Kijun bounce. You got a higher high finally there as well. So down here was the time on any chart that looks like this for me to want to trade this. Up here, it's a little too far gone. AAVE, a lot of people very excited about this one. It consolidated, broke down. It may revisit 333 or whatever. I think the idea is still valid. I think trading this right now is silly. I just want higher highs, right? It shouldn't be hard. If you're bullish in this market, you should be able to make higher highs. Hype broke down all the way. And again, this stuff is just not for me. So I don't like trading that personally. If you like the story and the fundamentals and whatever, that's different. But this up chop is just very hard to trade. Does it look bearish? Not really, but it's just like, what more do you want in the near term relative to everything else? I think other stuff does better until later on, and then people start rotating back into hype. AMEX broke out, just kind of in the range, really nothing to say. Not bearish, I don't hate it. It looks fine. ADA back in the range here, back at the breakout level. Hasn't really done anything. It just is what it is. There's really nothing to say. Higher highs would be great for an entry. Some people would like this on a nibble, but it's been look at this chart. It's like a 3-year-old took a crayon and just scribbled. It's all over the place. It's all over the place. So I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, but it does look like it wants to break up. ARB, probably one of the worst performing despite the excellent setup and initial breakout. Below the cloud here, I like it better at 50 cents and higher. I do not like buying it here. OP, same deal. I like it higher, 78 cents for myself. And this is what I do. I'd rather set the alert than take the trade. And then at the alert, take the trade. That might sound obvious, but that's how I do things generally. Let this chop around, let this set up. I don't care if I miss 5, 10, 25%. If you think it's going from 79 to 140 or higher, that's fine with me. I don't need to be the hero down here at 70 cents. IMX, I closed this out for BTC today just because it broke out, kind of didn't go anywhere. just consolidating. I mean, this might continue. I don't have anything against it. I just think, again, BTC is moving now, so that makes a lot of sense. Near kind of stuck. I don't hate it. I think a lot of these charts are going to give you a better entry, slightly higher and more obvious after BTC breaks up, if it does break up, which I think it will. Wormhole looks fine. Held the levels, held the pullback a lot better than most coins. Still has plenty of room higher there. DYDX just chopping around, really nothing to say or do. I like any higher high. And it's like, do we really need a video of Josh saying the same thing on every chart? But that's just where my head's at. That's where the market's at. We've had some false breakouts. We've had a lot of chop. If we can get some momentum to swing back into these, sure. But they all look the same. They're all just kind of just in the range, not quite there yet. And then we go down this list. Laggards, Flow, GRT, INJ has looked better. SUI has looked better. Pith, Ton broke down from that triangle, unfortunately. Aptos, probably higher on the list here. It really looks like, regardless of unlocks and whatever, it just really looks like this thing wants to go somewhere. I don't know if it does, but I like alerts. You can see I have an alert, whatever this is, 519. Probably move that down, 501 or something. It's almost there. It's almost there for an entry. Filecoin, ICP, all these, Velo, VET, they're not ready yet. And you may see one trade in 4 years on these charts, right? And that may be coming up here in the next couple of months, but I think it's going to pay to be patient. Doge, what a mess of a chart. Similar to Sol, it looks fine. It hasn't done well with the cloud because it's just been so noisy. I don't know, again, personal preference. I think it makes sense to just pick like 5 of these max and say, okay, I'm going to make my stand and buy a little bit now, rotate into something from BTC into these, and try not to get too rotation happy with everything. SHIB, no. Pepe, no. Bonk, no. Whiff, I sold this today for more BTC. I might come back to it, but it's an ugly range below the cloud. Really nothing to say. Floki, no. Same deal. Let's check this one. Really nothing to say there either. So I like high caps right now. I think anything that's already working should continue to work. Anything that's breaking out should continue to break out. This is a very good sign for BTC. I do not like MSTR here. Unsurprisingly, it's not above the cloud. I don't care if you're bullish BTC. I just think there's better places to use leverage right now than MSTR. If this can get above 350, I think there's maybe a better argument. If you can get some sort of pattern down here, above the cloud is great. Above 400 is great. These are the levels you can think about adding potentially from a technical perspective. But I just think it's a little early, personally, for MSTR. So that's all I have for this one on alts today. Give me a like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know inevitably which alt I'm missing. Don't say it's Zcash. Let's take a look, because I know someone's going to say, what about Ztrash? What about Ztrash? It's below my line of caring, certainly. I have nothing to say. If you're paying attention to these charts, which plenty of people were, maybe you like it on a daily breakout. At some point we looked at this, but back here, just like on that BNB example, that's where I like this. I don't care about it now. It's already up 2x, whatever. Anyway, but let me know in the comments. Happy trading.